Hello everyone, this is Alessio with blindproducers.org, and today we're taking a look at the project file of my song The Life We Had Before, which is out now on all streaming platforms. So let's get started. So here's the project file. We are at 172 BPM, and this is a sort of a melodic DnB track. This track came alive quite randomly because someone sent a cover of theirs in our Discord server, which is linked down below in the description. And I felt inspired by the vocals, so I took them and made this track around them. Then I came across a few vocals that I bought a few years ago from a vocal pack, and I stretched them to 172 BPM, which is the project tempo, and they sounded quite nice with the actual instrumental, so I kept those, and that's how The Life We Had Before came alive. This breakdown will be quite simple. I won't be showing you too much about sound design and processing, as I would like to keep that for another video. So if you have any questions or would like to see how any of these patches were made, just drop a comment down below and we'll try to get it done soon. I would like to start with the drums first, as they're quite easy and they're not really complex. So here's the drop. So let's get into the drums. I divided those into two different folders. We have the main folder, which is the kick and the snare. Then I have the top drums folder. Which sounds like this without the kick and the snare. So as you can hear, it's sidechained to the kick and the snare to make space for the transients of the kick and the snare. And we have a few elements here. We have a drum shaker loop. Then we have a park loop. A cymbal. Another cymbal, which is going left and right. It sounds like this on its own. This one is giving a lot of movement to the stereo image of the drums. Then I have a hi-hat loop. A crash. And a downlifter. As you can see here, I have a folder called sidechain, which I send the kick and the snare to sidechain it. And for sidechain, I use Kickstart 2. So everything is linked to this track, which has Kickstart 2 on it, to sidechain. So if I solo everything, it would sound like this. As you can hear, it's pretty sidechained, and this sidechain is quite heavy, but I liked how they sound with the drums and everything else, so I kept that. As far as instruments, I would start with the drop. I have a sub here. Mid bass. Some plucky chords. So the sample here is quite interesting because it's part of the cover of the person who sent it on Discord, and I pitched it up, used the same rhythm I used for the chords with the LFO, and it sounds like this. Then I have a piano, which is part of the drop and the intro as well. If I solo it, sounds like this. I have a guitar loop here. Which I intended it as a ambient loop, so it's more in the background. Then I have another ambient loop. Then I have these guitars here. Another guitar which is strummed and it comes from Contact. Some ambience that I've made, which sounds like this soloed. Then I have another ambient loop, which is a drone. Then I have another drone which is tempo synced, so it's moving. As you can hear, it's made out of strings and some piano notes in the background. Then I have this ambient shot, which is full of reverb. And this basically repeats all over the track in the intro, break, and build up and drop. Then I have these chords. This is a Surge XT patch that I've made. Then I have this riser, which is part of the build up actually. And it's full of reverb as well. Then I have another riser here. Then I have some drum fills. The drop synth, which is this. Then I have another layer in the background, which is this. Which soloed sounds like this. That's basically it for the drop. Let's take a look at the other sections. So here's the intro of the song. It is pretty simple. We start off with this sound. Which is full of reverb as well. And it's quite interesting how this sound made it in the track because this sound is part of the instrumental of the cover. And I took, I believe, the start of the song and I reversed it and added a fade in, added some EQ and reverb, and that's how it sounds. Then we have this, which essentially is the first chord of the piano bounced to audio and reversed, and it sounds like that. Then I have this ambient shot, which is the same as before, but it's reversed and then the original sample comes in. Then I also have this reverse piano. Which plays in the whole intro. Then we have the piano. Then we have these chords from the drop, which are filtered we have the same drone in the drop here. In the background. Then the other drone comes in. The guitar comes in as well. We have a soft kick here, which is this. And we also have a respace. And then we have two reverse crashes. And then here at the start of the break, we have the crash and the downlifter from the top drums folder playing. One interesting patch that I have here is this Surge XT patch, which is basically a lead. Which is playing some notes that the artist sung in the original cover. And I wanted to keep this because I really like how it sounds, and also because it adds some sort of variation in the break. So it's nice to have it in there. For the second break, actually is literally the same. I added a few things. So if we start from here, we have the same things as before. We have the reverse piano chords, the reverse ambient shot. We have the low impact, the Surge XT chords as before. The only thing that I added is this sine wave snare. And a percussion loop. Those are really the only two things that I added in the second break. So now let's come to the vocals, which are the main part of this track. Let's unmute the folder and let's hear how they sound.
I had a dream. I had a dream. We were stranded out in the sea. Nothing but ocean and waves as far as we could see. There was just nothing there besides you and me. And you said you'd rather be here with me than go back to the life we had before. To the life we had before. To the life we had before. You took my hand and you said, I don't wanna go back to the life we had before.
So there's a ton of stuff happening here, which is the main thing why the track sounds so full with the vocals. I have the main vocal here, which sounds like this without any effects.
I had a dream. I had a dream. We were stranded out in the sea.
I added some EQ, compression, reverb, delay, usual things.
I had a dream. I had a dream. We were stranded out in the sea.
Then I have this track, which is basically this part of the vocal pasted into this track, added some reverb and sidechain so it sounds like this. And it adds a ton, especially in that part. Then I have this part right here, which is quite interesting.
To the life we had before. To the life we had before. To the life we had before.
So basically, it's just the part of the vocal put in a really long delay with no dry signal, and that's how it sounds. And this also happens in the drop. So if you hear this,
Life we had before. To the 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 life we had before.
Then I have a few delay throws that I added, especially in the intro. So if you're hearing this,
I had a dream, we were stranded out in the sea.
so you can hear a few words are just delayed a bit more than the main vocal is. It was just to add something more, especially in the intro, because we don't have many instruments. Then I have this track, which is basically the same concept of the reverb throw that I showed you before, but in a different moment without any sidechain.
Life we had before.
So you can hear it's a pretty long reverb. This track is quite interesting because I used ROM, the Native Instruments reverb, and it has a freeze function which basically allows you to freeze the reverb signal. And that's what I did for this track in the drop. So if you hear this,
Life we had before. To the life we had before.
you can hear this track is basically staying there in the background. And then I duplicated it, turned it up by an octave, and it sounds like this. Added some LFO to the volume. And then we have two harmonies tracks which come from the actual vocal pack. I didn't add anything fancy to them. I just added the same processing I have on the main vocal to make them sound more cohesive with the overall track. And they sound like this.
Nothing there besides you and me. You'd rather be here with me than go back to the life we had before.
With
Nothing there.
And with all the vocals, they sound like this.
Nothing there besides you and me. And you said you'd rather be here with me than go back to the life we had before. To the life we had before. To the life we had before.
So that's basically everything. I didn't do anything else apart from some processing in the master chain, but we'll talk about that in another video. So if you like this video, leave a like, drop a comment down below with any questions or doubt if you have any. Subscribe to our channel, visit our site blindproducers.org, and see you in the next one.